What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Sorry for the little break of content. Had a lot going on in life with just traveling around the state for some certain family things and events with friends, but we are back for the remainder of this season as far as I know, with one weekend that's up in question. So get ready for some banging content with Arc 3.0 and the rest of Season of Plunder. Now, in today's video, as you can see, we are going over a Stormcaller build that utilizes our Arc Souls and our exotic arms, the Getaway Artists. Now, these allow us to consume our grenade, which gives us one of those intellectual Arc Souls, which shoots a little bit faster, and we're having those on top of that with our rift as well. So we're getting our abilities back super fast, being able to chain grenades and basically becoming a walking, talking sentinel with our arc soul, as well as our exotic weapon that we're using as well. As always, here we're starting with our abilities, aspects, and fragments for our Stormcaller Warlock right here, using our healing rift and strafe glide pretty much as always, with our chain lightning arc melee so we can jolt targets with connecting on them, and because we're amplified a lot, it has an additional chain on that melee. And then for me, I chose to use storm grenades because it has one of the fastest cooldown rates for our grenades in arc, and it is very good at just keeping enemies at bay as well as damage. Now, for our aspects in the PvE realm here, we're going with Arc Souls. So casting our Rift creates Arc Souls that fire at targets. We're using these with our grenades and consuming for Getaway Artist as well. This allows allies to also get our Arc Souls, which is nice to spread around that love. And when we are amplified, they are supercharged and have increased fire rate. On top of that, we're going with Electrostatic Mind, so defeating targets with arc abilities, which arc souls count as arc abilities. Defeating jolted or blinding targets create Ionic Traces, and with how we have this built, we're going to be jolting targets with our melee, as well as blinding enemies with our energy weapon in the Forbearance. Now, for our fragments, we're going to use a Spark of Feedback to help keep us alive in that endgame activity, and it definitely helps with creating that jolting effect and that little extra damage for our arc melee here. Now, we also have a Spark of Amplitude, so rapidly defeating targets while we're amplified helps us create orbs of power, and we're using those orbs of power to become charged with light, as well as just get our super back a little bit faster. Third, we have Spark of Beacon, so when we're amplified, our arc special weapon Final Blows create a blinding explosion. That's why we're using that Forbearance with this build to get those nice blinding explosions and keep those adds at bay while cranking on those arc shields. Last but not least, we have Spark of Ion, so defeating those jolted targets that we are getting from our melee and our fellow guardians help create more Ionic Traces, which you'll see we get our abilities back super fast with this build. Now, moving on to the weapons here, we're going to use No Time to Explain. So when we get those precision shots on this weapon, we have that time chasm that opens up, which helps create another sentinel turret, which shoots those bullets from another dimension. So we have that going on, plus our arc soul, which just adds to that walking, talking sentinel, clearing out all the adds that we're going to be encountering. Next off, we're using the Forbearance, very good for ad clear with Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction. So when we get those defeats, we're having those arc explosions, plus when we're amplified because of our fragment, the final defeats with this weapon are gonna blind enemies, which will in turn help us create more Ionic Traces to spam our abilities, have our grenade back faster to consume with Getaway Artist. And last but not least, we're using Chain of Command, so we can throw on overloads with this, as well as adaptive munitions allows us to take this into endgame activities like Grandmaster and Master Strike that you see me going through in the Light Blade here. Very nice to break shields that don't coincide with the stasis burn. Now moving on to our armor pieces, as you can see, we got our 100 resilience so we can stay alive with only 80 recovery, but with all the Ionic Traces that we are getting because of our Arc Souls, we get back our Rift very, very fast, and then also 100 discipline so we can get those storm grenades back very, very, very fast, never losing our Arc Soul, either being able to just consume it with our Getaway Artist, or we can throw that grenade for a little extra ad clear and DPS. Now for mods on my helmet here, we're going with Harmonic Siphon, so when we get defeats with our arc weapon in Forbearance, it's going to help create orbs of power, which we are picking up via taking charge to become charged with light, which you will see why in the other mods on this build here. Now moving on to our exotic arms, the Getaway Artist. This has the dynamic duo, so pressing and holding your grenade converts it into an Arc Soul and we become amplified. The Arc Soul functions autonomously, and like I said, being able to use this helps us get back our abilities because Arc Souls count as arc abilities, helping us create a bunch of Ionic Traces. Then we're going to have firepower on this armor piece, so while charged with light, we regain a portion of our grenade when we use that grenade energy, consuming 1 stack. So this works with throwing our grenade as well as consuming it for Getaway Artists to give ourselves an Arc Soul. We get back a good portion of our grenade because of this firepower, and we're becoming charged with light because of those orbs of power that we pick up with this build. And then we're throwing on Overload Machine Gun for that chain of command in our LMG, as well as Unstoppable Pulse for our No Time to Explain. Now for our chest piece here, we got another firepower that just helps give us back additional energy for our grenade when we're throwing it or consuming it, as well as solar damage resistant and arc damage resistant, so we can stay alive in Grandmaster activities with this build. On our boots, we're throwing on Scavengers for both our Forbearance as well as our Chain of Command, just helping us get more ammo when we pick up those bricks, just for the ammo economy, especially in something like a Grandmaster raid, something like that, where you need that ammo economy to be very, very good and plentiful. Now last but not least, on our bond right here, we're going to have Amped Up and Trace Evidence. So when we are amped up, it stays amplified longer, which is very easy with Getaway Artists and just Arc in general. And then Trace Evidence, so defeating combatants affected by Arc debuffs spawn Ionic Traces, another way to allow us to just get more and more abilities to spam with this build here. And then Charged Up, allowing us to get up to that ×3 with Charged with Light. So as you can see, we are absolutely just blowing through this Light Blade Master Strike very easily, having arc abilities and our Arc Soul up almost consistently with this build, whether it be coming from our grenade and consuming it, or from our Rift healing our allies and spreading that Arc Soul around to them. And then on top of that, we get the Time Chasm from No Time to Explain to proc, and we are just shooting all the enemies before we even really have a chance, because the AI and that autonomous turrets for both of those are just picking and choosing everything in front of us. So it gives us a very good option for ad clear, and it is viable for stuff like Master, even Grandmaster. I'm going to take this in and show it off in there as well, but it is a very fun build to always have your Arc Souls up. Maybe a little overkill because we are getting them consistently with just our rifts, but having that ability to consume it to become amplified, as well as have it in a situation when we don't have our rift, is very, very clutch. So hopefully you guys enjoy this build. Definitely give it a shot. One of my favorites that I've been running for exotic arms with our Warlock and Arc 3.0. So thank you guys again. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.